Let me ask you a powerful question. What happens to your business if the lights go out? No emails, no databases, no customer support, no sales. In seconds, your business literally goes dark. But now imagine what's happening with your competitor. Are they still up and running? ICT readiness is the difference between hope and planning and preparation. Today, I'm going to show you how to go from vulnerable to virtually unstoppable using ISO 27001's most overlooked but critical new control, Annex A 5.30 ICT readiness for business continuity. Now, to be clear, when we talk about ICT, what we're talking about here is information and communication technology. Therefore, we're not just talking about your typical IT systems, your servers, your firewalls, your laptops, your desktops, your iPads and such. We also talk about your mobile devices, your mobile phones, and your telephony systems if you have an office. Now, this control doesn't just stand alone. It sits inside a powerful ecosystem of other controls that all work together to help you prepare, respond, and recover from information security incidents. Now, when we're talking about information security, just pause for a moment. When we talk about information security, we're talking about three things. We talk about confidentiality, we talk about integrity, and we talk about availability. And that's really what this control and the other controls in Annex A that are relevant to business continuity are all leaning towards this availability. As I said, there is an ecosystem. This is just Annex A 5.30 sits within this. It starts when we talk on Annex A 5.24 and we talk about incident planning and preparation. Then we go on to talk about events and the event assessments and decisions. We talk about incident response, learning from incidents, collection of evidence, and of course, we talk about InfoSec during disruptions and how you maintain information security during a disruption. And it all really finishes with Annex A 5.30, which you might say is your last line of defense before a bad day really does become a seriously business disastrous situation. So what does this Annex A control actually ask for? What does it state? Well, it states that the ICT readiness shall be planned, implemented, maintained, and tested based on business continuity objectives and ICT continuity requirements. So it wants your ICT readiness to be planned, implemented, maintained, and tested. Four things. But it also needs those things to be based on business continuity objectives and your ICT continuity requirements. So again, there's further aspects here. This control may have some simple words in some respects, but it has big implications. So let me show you how each one works in the real world. You see, in the real world, what we're talking about here is about you thinking very carefully about what ICT is important to you. And how you do that in information security is you conduct a business impact assessment. That is, what is the impact upon your business should you lose some critical aspect of your ICT infrastructure? It's about talking to the business. What's important to your HR function? What's important to your sales teams? What's important to your board of directors when you talk about your business and the systems that they rely upon? You see, you need to know what ICT is critical to your business. That really is at the heart of what a BIA is. Now, in terms of bringing this to life, if you like, by way of examples, I'm not going to call out any one particular organization or company, but just imagine the organizations that you've relied upon. Many of them will have suffered some form of data center outage at some point. And of course, a data center outage means that you can no longer access your emails, your critical data. The data center and the data center company, well, they're unlikely to be hitting the headlines, and it's unlikely that your customers are going to be calling them angrily asking why you're not providing the services that you said you're going to provide. If your data center goes down, if you rely upon it, what is the impact upon your organization? Have you asked that question of your business? What happens if your telephony goes down and you're a call center and you rely upon incoming calls? What happens if your website goes down? How reliant upon it are you? These are the questions that you need to ask. And you need to know what you can't live without. And that's about speaking to your business. So that's the planning side of it. You need to go out and ask your business what is important to them. And then it's about implementing it. It's about building resilience. This is where your disaster recovery plans come to life. Again, think about some of the services that you rely upon. If one region of your cloud service was to fail, then you need to know you have a backup, you have resilience in your infrastructure so that your systems can continue. That's about not hope, that's about designing and planning and then implementing and making sure that these things actually will work. What do you have? Do you have a reliance upon equipment that sits in your organization, in a cupboard, in a server room somewhere that the systems aren't being maintained? If you are, then you haven't really implemented good ICT readiness. You're not ready for a major crisis. You need to make sure you maintain these things. That's about staying current. That's having a backup server that you proudly bought 2 years ago when it hasn't been maintained. That's not planning, that's not ICT readiness. You need to make sure that your readiness, your backup servers, your backup laptop that you say you're going to use in the event of a pandemic is still fit for purpose. Has it been maintained? Has it been updated? Has it been patched? Is it ready should you need it? And finally, you need to test this. Have you tested your DR plans, your recovery systems? All too often, we hear about organizations saying they have resilient networks and infrastructure because they have dual data centers and such, and they can fail over from one to the next. Well, have you tested that? Because if you don't test it during peace times when it's not raining, then how can you be sure it's going to work when the rain does come and you're having a particularly bad day? So what does the auditor want to see? Well, the auditor wants evidence that you've done all of this. They need to see that you conducted a business impact analysis. Document your disaster recovery plans. Show them that you've spoken to your business about your recovery objectives. So when we talk about the impact on your business, the impact may not happen immediately, but what about the impact over a day? What happens if your email system isn't available for a week? What about your CRM? What about your development environments? What would happen if your development environment wasn't around for a week? Would that be a problem? What about your payroll system? If that wasn't around for a month, how would your teams feel if you can't pay them? So it's about understanding the reliance upon your ICT and how quickly you want to get those back up and running. That's your objectives. Your ICT objectives could be that you're going to have this system recovered within a week or a day. This is known as the recovery time objective, the RTO. It's also about if you lost your data, how much data could you accept to have been lost? This is about looking at your backup plans. This is known as your recovery point objective. Can you roll back a day, a week, a month? What would you expect and accept as a business? Now, before we all run off and think this is just the job of the ICT, well, unfortunately, that's a little bit like the tail wagging the dog. It's the dog that needs to tell the business, the tail, ICT, the IT team, what it expects. And then the IT team can say, yes, we can recover your CRM within a day or a week. Or they may turn around and your IT team may say, well, I'm sorry, but if we lost this particular system because we've had cutbacks, because we haven't invested in our technology, then we can't recover it within a week. It's going to take us a month. We're going to have to go out and buy equipment because we haven't got a backup plan. It's about having the conversations before the bad day. Because here's the truth. ICT readiness is not an IT issue. It's a business conversation. And ICT readiness is certainly not about ticking a box in ISO 27001. It's about maybe one question. Can your business keep going even when the worst happens? If the answer is anything less than a rock solid yes, then you've got work to do. I hope that's been helpful. Just remember that consultants like us are here to help you. Thank you for watching. I'm Gary from Consultants Like Us. As I always say, we are here to make security simple, human, and we provide compliance without complexity. And we're here to translate the technical jargon into plain English. So until next time, just remember, disasters don't wait until you have time in your diary, and neither should your plans. Go and check your ICT readiness today. Thank you.